Good morning. Holy tough. What does that mean? Let's see. Let's get you up here. All right. Good morning. There we go. All right. We're going to do that. We're going to work on some background stuff. So, kind of work background to foreground in here. Yeah. All right. So, I'm going to work on this sideways for a bit today, I think. Oh, got to deal with that bot. There we go. That's better. All right. Let's see, let's go this way. Let's see. Good morning. All right. Working on finishing now. Back to front. I put this on a separate piece of paper. All right. Good morning. Let's see. All right. Good morning. Let's see. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. How are we doing? Decided to cut this out of the sketchbook early. Much better. Excuse me. Whew. Sneezing in the morning, right? Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. I should share that around a little bit. Good morning. Did everyone see the Dave Raposa Don't Give Up video? Definitely worth checking out. But he's just saying that, in spite of all the troubles out there, the real legitimate things that are going on, that it's worth doing, trying out the things that only you can do. And I definitely agree with that sentiment. For sure. That's why I'm pursuing some of the things that I'm doing. So I feel like, that's really what's going to matter. And you got to make things that matter to you. So. Let's see. We'll just put on some music, but not this music. Let's go with this guy. Yeah, it's definitely worth considering. Doing your thing is to figure that out more deeply and spend the time to figure it out. He was going on there about how he isolated himself for a long time so he could really nail down the skills that he wanted to have. And not a lot of people are willing to engage with that level of sacrifice and accept. A lot of times, there's these notions around work-life balance, and there's a place for that certainly. But I think if you're trying to achieve uh, high level success in difficult areas, you kind of have to set that aside. That you kind of have to be willing to put in the time and the effort and set aside other things that are valuable but aren't going to help you achieve your long-term goals, and recognize that that's something that you just have to do. Because if you don't, then you're going to find you're just not going to get where you want to go. It's not anytime soon. And I have heard like some artists that I think are really amazing artists, like they say they think, "Oh, I wish I hadn't worked so hard at this particular age and lost out on all the XYZ social opportunities or life experiences or whatever." But then again, if they hadn't done that, they would not be where they are. And so I kind of think it's a weird way of looking at it, just because obviously they wouldn't be there had they not taken the opportunity to sacrifice so much to achieve that. And it can take a long time to get where you want to go. And not see any results for a while, at least the kind you want, maybe. Sideways mode, because this is all. Let me get the line for this pipe. Um, those are all things kind of to consider when you're developing as an artist. That if you're interested in being an artist, you really have to give up a lot. And it's interesting. A lot of the arguments for uh, the incursion of Gen AI into creative fields has been, well, it makes it a lot easier, but the thing is, the things that make it hard, that changes who the artist is. And that's hard to predict, how much is necessary and what the long-term effects of that can be. But you don't kind of get to where you want to go by casually relating to your work. By saying, I'll only go this far and no further. Because as soon as you do that, you put limits on your growth. Because you just don't know what's going to be necessary to actually turn you into the artist you want to be. You don't know how many hours it's going to take or years. To get you where you want to go, or think you want to go at least. So, I always get a little concerned when I start hearing people talk about that kind of arbitrary notions around balance, about what they will and won't do to actually become the thing they want to become. It's like I don't have to do this acrylic paintings. I could do other mediums that I'm already more comfortable with. But I see things in here that I can do that I think will benefit the things I'm trying to accomplish. And if I don't do that, then I'll kind of always regret not figuring that out. You know, and the way human nature works, you spend a lot of time blaming other people for your individual problems, and it's not that other people don't cause you problems, that they aren't actively committing harms in the world or in your life, but those aren't things typically that you can do very much about. And very often aren't worth paying attention to. A lot of things I pay attention to, I'd rather not. Yep, have a fire away there, Optimus. What question do you got? I was just watching a Dave Raposa put out a video about the challenges of artistic success. When I was 2 years old, I started painting just like this. I just woke up one morning, started smearing my spaghetti into artistic shapes. I've done a lot of really bad work over the years, so it's like I said, with acrylic painting, as I talked about before, like it's something I didn't like as a student, and I kind of avoided it for a long time. Um, if you brought it up to me, I'd be like, "Ew, painting with plastic," and it doesn't feel quite, I think, as good as a oil painting does. Certainly doesn't smell as nice. But kind of looking back now, and I'm wondering, well, maybe the reason I didn't like it so much back then is, I didn't know and have experience with a lot of the things that I really understand, I think, pretty well now. I mean, I can always get better at them, but the things that I do understand. One of the things I actually love about teaching, a lot of professors that I've found over the years, that there's a lot of professors that don't like this. Come lay down, Bush. Don't look to bed. Just come lay down. You're tired, I can tell. Dog is not used to the time change yet. But I spent a lot of time even after I graduated from my undergrad, just studying with mentorships and things like that. And I was pretty good as a student. I wasn't like the best or anything. I liked working hard and all of that. But with the teaching thing, though, what I was gonna say was that one of the things I've just kind of found is that a lot of professors, like, they don't like to teach new things. There's a lot of kind of fear over their lack of ability in one area to try out new things. And a lot of professors, they kind of teach the same thing year after year, and that's just never been my experience. I've always been teaching like new things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 2 years old, right? Um, no, but I think to a certain degree, artists have to have a certain level of delusion in order to achieve success, right? They have to be able to say, I do it now, or kind of think they are kind of getting close to doing it now, but they got to kind of just keep going. So you have to be both like delusional about where you're at, but also realistic about what you need to do in order to really get where you want to go. Um, and that's you know, it's not an easy road to haul. Um, but I've had the benefit of studying with some really amazing people that have changed how I do things and inspired me to do things better. That's always one of the things I think a lot of people kind of you hear about people kind of I studied art on my own, right? Well, everyone does to a certain degree study on your own, no matter if you went to school or not. Like you still have to study on your own. Like that never changes. And it's like I like to point out, we have 3 years in the program with our students at my university, and that's not a lot of time. Like it goes by really, really fast. But the art professor thing, it did help that because I've taught so many things, I've also had like study a lot of different things and see them in different contexts and try things out with students. See how things work. There's just a lot of things I've found over the years that have been really effective for getting students to do better work for one, and things that are less effective. And I'm still always learning new things about that. It's not a static state of things, but um, so it's not like I've reached a point where everything is like, oh, perfect. I'm always updating my course materials and projects. Um, but being better than most isn't really much of anything, even if that's an accurate representation. Like it's not a very meaningful description. Like one of the things that I think helped me as a student is I looked around the classroom one day and I was like, I wish I'd written down when this happened so I could have the exact date. But I think it was when I was like a sophomore, maybe junior. I looked around the room and I'm like, this wasn't me saying everyone was like I'm better than everyone else or that they sucked or whatever. But I looked around the room and I realized that kind of but the people in the room are not the people I should compare myself to. Like, I might be doing well or worse or whatever compared to them in the classroom, but that doesn't matter. What matters are the people that I see out in the world doing the things that I want to do. And that's who I should compare my work to. I should not compare it to, Susie or whoever's in the classroom with me. I mean, that's nice for like being proud of my work relative to my small circle, but I should be looking at the people out there whose work really inspires me, and that's who, that's the standard that I should set for myself. It's not, am I doing okay next to my classroom, my limited range of experience I get out of a classroom. That's not very much at all. And so it kind of shifted my focus away from, looking around and thinking, oh, I'm doing really great because, I'm doing better than so and so. And because that's just not a standard. It's not even very helpful for anything, really. But as soon as I started looking around at other people who were better than me and were doing the things that I wanted to do, that helped me learn a lot. Um, what are the kinds of things they do that I should be doing? As example, like I was looking at the artwork in the art of the prequel Star Wars films, and I saw this artist Eric Tiemens. I was like, oh wow, I really love all the things that Eric Tiemens is doing. What does he do? So I looked him up, and he did a lot of landscape painting. I'm not sure what he does now. I assume he's still with Lucasfilm, but I noticed that, and he was using gouache. I'm like, oh, I've never used gouache for landscape painting. I had it for a color class years ago, but I've never really, used it beyond that. And that led me into landscape painting, trying to master that. I don't know that I am a master of that. I like doing it. I think I'm pretty good, but I'm not the best at it. Um, but I got, to the point where it made a big difference for the other things I was doing. And that's been true for a lot of the things I've ended up doing. I looked at the people who are doing the things that I want to do and figure out kind of what they're doing. And these days, like in spite of all the problems that are really out there that are real problems, the AI and turmoil and economic issues and whatever that's out there. Um, like all those things are really valid problems. Um, uh, it's I can't do anything about those things. So, but there are more opportunities. I like to point this out to students that there's more opportunities to do more things for more people than ever has existed, and you can get a hold of those people. So there are people who will waste your time or aren't worth bothering with, but uh, because of the internet, um, because of social media, in fact, um, you can reach out to all kinds of people in all parts of the world for all kinds of reasons. Um, and then the tools for making, especially digital stuff, are far more accessible, far cheaper, um, require far less technology and infrastructure than they did as a student. You know, um, so it's like a Wacom Intuos tablet when I was a student cost like $400 or whatever, and they're still expensive for Wacom, but you can buy a Huon for $20 or $50 depending on the size. And that's not very much, considering. Or you look at an iPad, it's a fairly expensive piece of equipment. Especially if you buy the high end one. But if you're just doing, illustration based work, you can probably get by with an Air or smaller. You know, I definitely recommend the Pro for the screen space, but if you're gonna do iPad stuff, but I'd say um, an iPad I would have killed for that as a student. Uh, but digital media was still pretty new back then. But even like traditional media, like there was limited access to tutorials that were really good. Like if you wanted to watch a good get a good tutorial, like a really worthwhile one, you'd have to buy a DVD and sit down and watch it on a DVD player. And now you got YouTube and all that good stuff. So there's just more opportunity, like objectively. I'm not getting that lighter stuff in there. So yeah, don't. The only thing getting, I think, in people's way is themselves for the most part these days. Um, I think in a lot of ways, people just kind of step on their own rakes. Like they lay them out in front of themselves and they just start stepping on rakes everywhere they go. And, I think that's, yeah, don't do that. Yeah, don't get in your own way. And not that I haven't done that to myself periodically. I've had points where I haven't done as much of certain things that I should have done. But you're always going to bump into that. So yeah. So if the things you want to do, do those things. Don't wait for permission. Get the shadow on first. Um, so make sure her back is still there, right? Yeah, but yeah, it was just, just some good thoughts on the video. Um, from Dave Raposa. He does a lot of live streams. If you haven't checked him out, haven't really watched the live streams, but I should probably tell me something about live streaming art, right? So, yeah, but one of the problems I found, like with people that I think I was mentioning before, autodidacts or people that like to study by themselves, and again, everyone has to. I think ultimately you have to do the studying, um, but I find it slows people down if they don't have some kind of mentor associated with that or structure. You just kind of chase things around randomly. Feel like you're accomplishing things because you get stuck in what they call I guess tutorial hell, um, where you kind of just do tutorial after tutorial without actually moving toward your goal. You might be getting better at doing the tutorials, but and it feels like an objective accomplishment, right? Because you've worked through the whole thing and you've done the whole thing. But there's nothing wrong with doing them per se. Like I buy them all the time, look at things, try out new things. But if you kind of get fixated on the tutorials as like the thing that you're doing, it can be harder to move into the actual ultimate goal you're working toward. Um, which can get you in trouble, right? Because you're kind of just like circling the drain. So I always say, with anything, even when I'm teaching in my classroom, my point's always to go from the principle of what we're working on into the application as quickly as possible. So at every single phase, you're trying to apply what you've studied, as soon as you can. That piece goes right into the making of something. Uh, as soon as you can do that, the sooner you can do that, the better off you're going to be. Um, I found that to be, true most of the time. The best way to study is to kind of push forward towards the thing you want to make and discover what you need to know along the way, and then learning that thing, rather than trying to learn a bunch of things and hope you'll have some kind of use for them. Um, so, like, if you want to make a comic book or a video game or something that you actually want to make, or a painting or whatever, make that thing, and as you're working on it, you'll kind of find out what you don't know, and that discovery will then help you do the research to figure out how to do the thing you need to know how to do. It's not that there isn't a time for like concentrated study of basic skills, but if you don't apply them to something, they don't really have much use. They're it's like nice to know, but so what? So like when I was teaching intensive perspective courses at my last university, um, I was always trying to push into layering the projects we were working on, so that they were actually applying what we were doing in class and having it solve some kind of, relevant problem for them. And the more that I did that, the better I found that results were with student work, because they were actually using the skills for something. Um, I've just found that to be true. Like, you're trying to make something, make that thing while you're working on that tutorial, and you'll get a lot more out of it than if you just make whatever the tutorial is trying to get you to make. Um, at least that's what I found to be true most of the time. Again, there's a time for, like, knuckling down and like learning some skill, but usually that's going to again be associated with something else that you want to really understand. That it's the making of the thing you're trying to accomplish. Even in like the old academies, 19th century academies, like in Russia, and say the St. Petersburg Academy, not called the Repin Academy. Repin described, when he was a student there, that you know that a lot of the stuff you see the atelier types being into wasn't being done at all. Like if you were doing cast drawing and site size drawing, that was the remedial program. And that was for people that lacked basic skills. They would go study those things, for a couple of years or whatever. Um, but in the actual academy, they were studying all kinds of stuff: history, philosophy, in addition to continuing working on painting and that. Their life drawing courses and all that good stuff. Maybe it was different in the French Academy, but I definitely preferred the Russian artists of that time period over those guys any day. Um, that's only something to consider as you kind of develop as an artist. Is you want to be looking for ways of applying your interests to your work, even if you're in school. Like you should try and kind of bend your projects to the things that you're interested in. And if you've got a good professor, they should be able to help you with that to a certain degree. Always gotta, you know, you're limited in school, but professors are limited in school to a certain degree because everyone's taking the same course. And but you can still find ways of adjusting the subject matter or the technique or the process or something about the project so that it becomes yours. And a lot of times, it's helpful actually to professor to know what your interests are. Like, if I know a student's really into, a certain subject, that helps me, guide them. But if, a student never says anything about, if they don't seem to have any interest, which I see a lot of it. I see a lot of students are like, well, I kind of like whatever. They're not really um, that invested in any particular thing. That it can becomes a lot harder to advise them. So I can tell them what I'm interested in and what I like doing, but that may not be, aligned with their interests or values. And so I actually, definitely want to know what's going on, so that what they want to do. Because if I can know that, then I can help them lean into those interests more easily. For sure. So still too much white on that tip. And I think part of the problem we deal with the modern world is because our interests and our desires are so easily gratified. You can look something up or ask a question and there's an answer for it. That it kind of can keep you from expressing your curiosity, because you feel like things are known or uninteresting or easy to access, and that can kind of get in your way. I think if you're trying to really kind of develop something special. Good morning. Come back to that later, I think. Better. Try to feel more solid back there, which is what we're looking for. Good morning. Good morning. All right, now there's the vertical stripes going through the bricks. Let's see, I think there's one there. This up here would be like a bunch of them. A little variety in these things, right? The El Spiso di Lifo. Good morning. Go over here. And good news though for like the AI area, what's his face? Satya Nadella of Adobe, CEO, he announced he is stepping down. So that's a big deal. Like, that's a really, really big deal. Because Adobe's stock has just been in the dumpsters. Actually, let's see how it's doing today. Where's that tab at? I guess we'll also have to do a search. Adobe stock price. It's got to be, markets have to have opened by now. Yeah, there's a drop for sure. Today is the 13th. So that'll be right. Or maybe they haven't opened yet. I guess they haven't opened. They'll be opening soon though. And Adobe's going to be taking a big, big hit. Because the AI slop fest is not working out in their favor, which should have been obvious from the beginning. You know, they're alienating, doing all these customer things that just alienate their customer base, and they've been doing it for a very, very long time. I mean, for the most part, I've stopped using Adobe stuff. I think the only thing I'm really using right now is Adobe Premiere on my phone. It's free and lets you do time lapses pretty easily in it. That's the only thing I'm using from Adobe now. Think of off the top of my head. Some of the ones I'll probably have to use in the near future just to like get some stuff out the door. But I've definitely shifted my focus to other applications. You know, like the Affinity Suite or Clip Studio, or I saw there's a Clip Studio 5. I don't know what it's doing that makes it necessary. I'm not sure what else they would add. Other than like, you know, bug fixes. But I guess they've got some new features or something going on in there. But I haven't looked at it. But I've also just been doing very little digital stuff lately. There we go. That pops that out properly. And today's kind of a chore day. We're mostly working on this background stuff, trying to clean up my messes back there. What I've been focusing on today. Getting everything kind of more or less organized on here. So yeah, I think there's, like I said, I've been watching it all go down. I look at it, it's just like it just reminds me of every single bubble we've seen, and I think the answer to it always has just been doubling down on excellence and personal vision. Better. I'll definitely aim for a little color variation in these bricks, but we want them to feel solid first. Getting a little opaque color on top of them. That's close to the value that's underneath. It's always helpful. That's starting to feel more solid. I do it for time. What time is it? 9:30, huh? Hmm. So let's see. Maybe I can work a little bit on these fishy parts, huh? Get some bright color in there. From my jellyfish, who apparently has an eye. Because jellyfish don't, right? Let's see, where's my jellyfish at? Let's see. Good morning. Good morning, people popping in. Good morning. Just that a little sideways. Hmm. Good morning. Good morning. morning. Oof. Should probably stop soon and move on to other things this morning. Right? I did the whole thing all by myself. My dog refused to help me. I asked him many times and he said no. He just looked at me like I was a crazy person. I'm using acrylic paint, so that's what I've been using recently is a lot of acrylics. And then this is on, well, this is taped to a larger piece of paper, so this paper isn't, this paper here isn't the same as this paper here. I just wanted to have the taped edges here, but I might even take it off later. That's right. The paper I'm using is from my sketchbook. I don't know that I necessarily advise it, just because, you know, especially if you're doing detail stuff, like you don't always want to leave that in a sketchbook for very long. But say Stillman and Burn, B-I-R-N for Burn. Zeta, Z-E-T-A sketchbook. It's like a pretty thick Bristol board. I forget what the weight is on the paper, but it's pretty heavy duty. I like it. So that's what I'm working on here. Stillman and Burn Zeta sketchbook. So I just cut a sheet out of the back. The last sheet of paper in there, so I was like almost finished with that sketchbook. And there's another half to this piece of paper, but I haven't started on. I want to do these smaller acrylic paintings just to focus my efforts. And so that's the paper. It's good. It's a good sketchbook. I like it for inking on and stuff. It might have been a better idea to just do this all on this illustration board or something, but I did not do that. So yeah, so that's what I've been using is that paper. I like it a lot. So I'm now kind of working towards the finishing phase on this little painting. Kind of working back to front, and I'll probably do that a couple of different times. So I spent a lot of time, you know, working on those windows and the eyeball and then the brick wall. Um, so that's been what I've been focusing on today. Um, so it's generally what I like to do is to follow that sort of procedure. So get the overall thing in, then back to front. Spatially through the picture. So, hour 45, huh? I'll give it another 15 minutes, and then we'll call it a morning after that. I started this a few days ago, so today's definitely not the first day on it. So yeah, that's the sketchbook. I like a lot. I use a lot for inking and stuff on there. So, um, we got ourselves a bot. Dispose of. Cheap viewers. I love that statement because there are no viewers. It's just a bot. Yep, there's a big drop in Adobe's stock. So far, $20 down. All right, where's that bot hiding at? Twitch. Let's see. There he is. So let's go here to Twitch. And let me come over here and delete. Where did that screenshot go? Yeah, that is a big drop. What I wanted to reply. So, yeah, that would be expected with the announcement that Satya Nadella, Adobe, is leaving. The fact they haven't been able to keep their stock prices up, and he's made every wrong decision you could possibly make in favor of systems that don't support their customers. Failed acquisitions, etc. legal trouble. All of it's caused by themselves. So, yeah, that's dropped basically $20 in the last few minutes since it opened. Good morning. Wonder if we'll see something similar at Microsoft soon with what's his face over there. Let's see, where did that gray go? All right, that's better. All right, I think we're going to 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. Good morning. All right. 2 hours pretty good, I think, for this morning. I think so. So appreciate everybody that came in, and we'll talk to you all later.